Deep inside the tall, smoky peaks of Ember Mountain, where the rocks glowed orange at night and the wind smelled like cinnamon and ash, there lived a dragon unlike any other. His name was Zuri. Zuri was not the biggest dragon. He was not the scariest dragon either. In fact, if you looked closely at his scales, you would notice something very strange. Each one was a different color. There were blue scales along his wings, green scales on his belly, golden ones running down his tail, and a little patch of pale violet near his left ear, which he was secretly very proud of. But despite all these colors, Zuri felt something was missing. Every evening, when the clouds parted after rain and a real, proper rainbow lit up the sky, Zuri would climb to the very tip of Ember Mountain, sit on the highest pointy rock, and stare at it. He would stare and stare until the rainbow faded, and then he would sigh the longest, smokiest sigh you ever heard. "If only I could keep a rainbow," he would whisper to no one at all. "Just one. Just to look at whenever I felt lonely." You see, Zuri lived completely alone. The other dragons thought he was too peculiar because he didn't like breathing fire at villagers or collecting gold coins. Instead, he had a large, beautiful cave filled with curious things: painted river stones, fallen feathers, dried flowers, and bottled moonlight. But he had never, not once, been able to collect a rainbow. And so, on the morning that everything changed, Zuri woke up to the sound of thunder, and decided, once and for all, that today was the day he would go and find one. Zuri spread his big, colorful wings and flew down from Ember Mountain. He had no map. He had no plan. He had only his bright, curious eyes and a little cloth bag that he always carried, just in case he found something wonderful to collect. He flew over the whispering forest, where the trees were so tall their tops tickled passing clouds. Below him, he spotted a tiny old tortoise sitting very still on a mossy log. Zuri landed with a gentle thud, which still shook 3 pine cones off a tree and startled a family of squirrels. "Excuse me," said Zuri politely. "Do you know where I might find a rainbow?" The old tortoise opened one slow eye. Her name was Mabel, and she had been alive for so long that she remembered when the mountains were young hills. "A rainbow," Mabel said. "You cannot find a rainbow by chasing it, dear dragon. It will run away every time. A rainbow must come to you." "But how?" asked Zuri, his golden eyes wide. Mabel smiled the slow, kind smile of someone who knows a great secret. She reached beneath her shell, which seemed impossible but was perfectly true, and pulled out a rolled-up leaf. On it, drawn in morning dew that sparkled like tiny diamonds, was a map. "Follow this path," said Mabel. "Visit the 4 keepers of color. Each one guards a piece of the rainbow's secret. Only when you have learned all 4 truths will the rainbow come willingly to you." Zuri took the map carefully in both claws, bowed his great, scaly head, and with a grateful rumble, leapt back into the sky. Below him, Mabel tucked herself back into her shell and went back to her peaceful, ancient nap. The map led first to the Valley of 1,000 Flowers, and that is where Zuri's real adventure truly began. The Valley of 1,000 Flowers was exactly as it sounded: a wide, sunlit bowl of land where every flower you could imagine bloomed in every direction. Pink foxgloves, red poppies, yellow sunflowers, blue forget-me-nots, and hundreds more that had no names at all. The first keeper was a tiny hummingbird named Pip, who zipped around so fast Zuri could barely see him. Pip was the keeper of red. "Red is the color of courage," Pip announced, hovering in front of Zuri's enormous nose. "Are you brave enough to try something that might not work? Because rainbows only appear after storms, and storms are very scary. To find a rainbow, you must first be willing to face the thunder. Can you do that?" Zuri thought of how he had stayed on his mountain, wishing and sighing, for so many years. He took a deep breath. "Yes," he said quietly. "I can be brave." Pip did a delighted little spin and left a feather that glowed red in Zuri's bag. Next, near a bright rushing river, he found the second keeper, a fat, jolly frog named Bumblo, who was the keeper of yellow. "Yellow is the color of joy." Bumblo bellowed happily. "You must learn to be joyful not just when things are perfect, but in ordinary moments too. Can you find something to smile about right now, this very second?" Zuri looked around. A butterfly landed on his claw. A warm breeze ruffled his wings. The river made a sound like quiet laughter. "Yes," said Zuri, and for the first time all day, he truly smiled. Bumblo gave him a pebble that glowed like sunshine. The third keeper lived at the edge of the forest, a great silver owl named Orinthia, the keeper of blue. She was calm and still as still water. Blue, she said softly, is the color of calm, of sky, of the deep sea. To deserve a rainbow, you must be at peace with who you are, even the strange, peculiar, different parts. She looked at Zara's patchwork scales with wise, steady eyes. Do you accept yourself as you are, Zara? Zara had always felt a little embarrassed about being so unusual. But now, under the owl's kind gaze, something loosened in his chest. I think, he said carefully, that maybe my different colors are the best thing about me. Orinthia nodded slowly and handed him a smooth blue stone. The fourth keeper was the most surprising of all, a small, messy rabbit named Clover, the keeper of green, who was covered in mud and building something very complicated out of sticks. Green, said Clover without looking up, is the color of growing, of trying new things, of making mistakes and keeping going anyway. She finally looked up with bright, cheerful eyes. What have you made with your own 2 claws lately, dragon? Zara thought of his cave, the painted stones, the arranged feathers, the little collections of lovely things. I make things, he said. I collect beautiful things and arrange them, and I think that matters. It absolutely does, said Clover, and she tucked a tiny green leaf into his bag. Now Zara had all 4 colors. The map showed one last place, the highest, most magical place of all. The cloud that touches the moon. The cloud that touches the moon was not easy to reach. Zara flew higher and higher, past the place where birds go, past the place where the air gets thin and cold, up into a strange grey world of swirling fog and muttering thunder. Then, crack! A bolt of lightning split the cloud right in front of him. The wind roared like 100 angry bears. Rain came down so hard and fast that Zara could barely see his own wings. He was tumbled, tossed, spun upside down, and blown sideways all at once. He thought of little Pip the hummingbird. Red is the color of courage. Are you brave enough? Zara tucked his wings in tight, pointed his snout forward, and pushed. Through the howling wind. Through the cold, crashing rain. Every wing beat was a struggle. His arms ached. His ears rang with thunder. But he did not stop. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the storm ended. Zara burst through the top of the cloud into silence. Above him was the most incredible night sky he had ever seen. A black velvet canvas scattered with so many stars it looked like someone had spilled a jar of silver glitter across the heavens. Below him, the storm clouds were slowly parting. And sitting on top of the softest, fluffiest, most enormous cloud he had ever seen was an old creature. She was enormous, bigger even than Zari, and she looked like she was made of cloud herself. Her fur was silver white, her eyes were the color of the sky just before dawn, pale and full of light. She was a cloud bear. And she was the guardian of rainbows. Zari, she said, in a voice like distant thunder but gentle, like thunder that is saying good night. I have been watching you for a very long time. You know my name. Zara breathed. I know the name of every creature who has ever looked up at my rainbows and wished, she said warmly. Now, you have learned the 4 truths. Courage, joy, peace, and growth. Tell me, why do you want a rainbow, Zari? What will you do with one? This was the question Zara had not expected. He had thought about collecting a rainbow, about having it for himself, about how beautiful it would look in his cave. But now, sitting here in the sky with this grand, gentle, ancient creature looking at him, his real answer surprised even himself. I was lonely, he admitted. I wanted something beautiful to keep me company. But now... He paused. He thought of Pip spinning with joy, of Bumblow laughing by the river, of wise Orinthia, of muddy cheerful Clover. Now I think I just want to share something beautiful. I want other lonely creatures to see it and feel less alone. Like I felt when the rainbow came out and lit up the whole sky. For just a little while, everything felt okay. The cloud bear smiled, and when she smiled, 3 stars above them seemed to shine a little brighter. That, she said softly, is exactly the right answer. The cloud bear reached out one enormous soft paw and touched Zara gently on the chest, right above his heart. Something extraordinary happened. Zara felt a warmth bloom outward from that spot, through his chest, along his neck, down his tail, and all the way to the very tips of his claws and the ends of his wings. He looked down at himself, and gasped. His scales were glowing. Every single one, the blue ones, the green ones, the gold ones, the violet patch near his ear, was lit from within, like a lantern. And when he moved, they shimmered. Together, all those colors swirled and danced and overlapped, and the patterns they made were a rainbow. Not one rigid arc, but a living, moving rainbow woven right into him. "You were always a rainbow, Zuri," said the cloud bear warmly. "You just couldn't see it." "But, how do I share it?" he asked, turning his glowing claws over in wonder. "When you breathe," she said, "don't breathe fire. Breathe light." Zuri took the deepest breath of his life. He felt it travel all the way through him, picking up every color from every scale. And then he breathed out, not a roar of orange fire, but a long, soft, sweeping breath of pure rainbow light. It bloomed across the night sky in 7 shimmering bands: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, hanging in the air like the world's most magical painting. Below the clouds, somewhere in the valleys and forests and little villages, creatures stopped what they were doing and looked up and said, "Oh." A small child waking up for a glass of water pressed her face to the window. A tired farmer sitting on his porch felt his tiredness lift a little. A fox curled up in a dark burrow somehow sensed the light and uncurled slightly, a little less afraid of the night. The cloud bear watched all of this with her gentle dawn sky eyes, and Zuri watched too, his heart so full it felt like it might burst right out of his chest and fly around on its own. "Can I come back?" Zuri whispered. "Can I make rainbows again?" "Every time it rains," said the cloud bear, "fly to where the sun begins to show. And breathe. The world always needs a little more color." She ruffled his ears gently, which felt like being patted with a very soft cloud, which is exactly what it was, and then she dissolved back into the mist with a last low rumble of contented thunder. Zuri flew back to Ember Mountain as the first pale streaks of dawn painted the horizon. His scales still shimmered softly, cycling gently through their rainbow of colors. But when he landed at the base of his mountain, he found something he had not expected. Waiting for him were Pip, Bumblow, Orinthia, and Clover. They had followed him. Well, Pip had zipped ahead and the others had hurried as fast as a frog, an owl, and a muddy rabbit could manage. "We saw the rainbow," Pip announced, doing 15 excited spins in a row. "We saw it. Was that you? Did you do that?" "That was the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my entire life," said Bumblow very seriously, which was funny because Bumblow had never been serious before in his entire life. "We thought," said Orinthia calmly, "that perhaps you should not live alone anymore." Zuri looked at them all, the tiny trembling hummingbird, the round happy frog, the wise still owl, the cheerful dirty rabbit, and felt something he had not felt in a very long time, maybe ever. He felt at home. "Would you like to live here?" he asked. "There's more than enough room in my cave. I have painted stones and dried flowers and bottled moonlight. And now I can make rainbows. Not just for myself, but for all the creatures who need them." "Yes," they all said at once, which startled 3 nearby birds out of a tree. And so Zuri the dragon was never lonely again. Every time the rain fell and the sun came back out, which happens quite often if you pay attention, Zuri would fly to where sky and storm met, and he would breathe. Out would come that soft, vast, living light, stretching across the sky from one horizon to the other. People would stop and point. Children would run outside in their socks. Old people would smile in their gardens. Animals would lift their noses and feel something warm. And in his cave, with his 4 best friends, surrounded by painted stones and feathers and flowers and the gentle hum of a happy hummingbird, Zuri collected something even better than rainbows. He collected mornings. And friendships. And laughter that echoes off cave walls. And the particular wonderful feeling you get when you realize that the strange, peculiar, colorful thing that made you different was, all along, a gift meant to be shared.